Good evening. Today is Sunday, January 11th, 2026. I'm Rich Stevens, and this is The Cold Take. What you're about to hear is news from this week taken only from primary sources like press conferences and court documents. You can find those sources and attribution for every story at thecoldtake.com. We begin in Minneapolis, where on Wednesday a protester was fatally shot by an ICE agent. This story became large enough to warrant its own video. If you're interested in watching, visit thecoldtake.com or at The Cold Take Press on YouTube. New information following the January 3rd capture of Nicolas Maduro from his home in Caracas, Venezuela. We learned that 32 members of the Cuban military and 24 Venezuelan soldiers were killed in the raid. Maduro appeared in court for arraignment on charges of narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Eyewitnesses say he stood and declared his innocence and insisted that he is still the president of Venezuela. Wednesday, January 7th, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced the seizure of 2 more Venezuelan oil tankers. These ships were operating under sanctions. One was captured in the Caribbean, but the other was operating in the North Atlantic. That ship, the Bella 1, had changed its flag and painted on a new name in an attempt to evade the U.S. Coast Guard. Pete Hegseth stated that a naval blockade of all Venezuelan oil is in effect and will be enforced anywhere in the world. Friday, the U.S. Coast Guard announced that it had also seized Russian motor tanker Alina in international waters east of the Caribbean. They reiterated that sanctioned oil and tankers will continue to be seized. See the videos and read their statements at thecoldtake.com. Monday, January 5th, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting voted to dissolve the organization after 58 years of operations. In May of 2025, President Trump issued an executive order directing the CPB board to cease all direct and indirect funding to NPR and PBS. The order stated that neither outlet presents a fair, accurate, and unbiased portrayal of current events. In June of 2025, Congress passed H.R. 4, the Rescissions Act of 2025. This rescinded $9.4 billion in funding, including funding to USAID and the CPB. Both PBS and NPR released statements confirming their commitment to continuing their broadcasts. Monday, January 5th, the CDC announced that it is modifying the immunization schedule for children. After reviewing data from 20 other developed peer nations, it was determined that some vaccines will become optional for infants. Things like MMR and Tdap will remain routine, while flu, COVID, Hep A and B will become optional outside of high-risk populations. You can read the full report and the updated vaccine schedule at thecoldtake.com. Funding for The Cold Take is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Just kidding. I need you to like, subscribe, and share this video to help me get some funding. Moving to politics, Monday, January 5th, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced that he will not seek re-election. His 4-page statement criticized the president and Republicans, accusing them of playing politics with the ongoing fraud investigation in his state. He indicated his confidence that he could win another term, but is choosing to focus on the job instead of a campaign. His full statement is available at thecoldtake.com. Monday, January 5th, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth posted to X. He announced that he has issued a formal letter of censure against Mark Kelly. Kelly is a retired naval captain who participated in a video encouraging active duty members to refuse unlawful orders. Of the 6 lawmakers who participated in the video, Kelly is the only one who formally retired and therefore the only one who is still under the jurisdiction of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Hegseth is seeking to lower his rank and retirement pay as part of this action. Kelly insists that he did nothing wrong and is being targeted for speaking out against President Trump. Thursday, December 8th, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Governor Kathy Hochul held a joint press conference. They announced that the state will add $1.7 billion in state spending to provide free childcare to 2-year-olds in New York City. Mamdani said, quote, "We will deliver care by working in partnership with child care providers, especially home-based providers who have been doing this work without thanks or recognition for far too long. This will expand the state's child care and pre-K budget to $4.5 billion, and the full press conference is available at thecoldtake.com. Monday, January 5th, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis spoke about the ongoing immigration enforcement dubbed Operation Tidal Wave. The joint effort between local, state, and federal law enforcement has arrested over 10,000 individuals and turned them over to the Department of Homeland Security. He said that 63% had criminal arrests or convictions and that all were in the country illegally. This week marks 5 years since the January 6th events that sparked national debate and kicked off years of investigations and arrests. The House Select Committee concluded that Donald Trump knowingly attempted to overturn the 2020 election, incited an attack on the Capitol, and should face criminal prosecution. The White House released a new report this week, published at whitehouse.gov/J6. It speaks about the pardons of 1,600 Americans who were prosecuted for their actions that day. It also lays the blame squarely on Nancy Pelosi for what occurred, and you can read what's there and judge for yourself. Switching over to finance, markets strengthened this week, largely erasing last week's losses and then some. The Dow gained 1,122 points, a 2.3% increase, and closed at 49,504. The Nasdaq added 436 points, a nearly 1.9% gain, closing at 23,671. The S&P 500 gained almost 1.6%, adding 108 points to finish the week at 69.66. Gold did not erase last week's losses, but climbed $171 and sits right at $4,500 per ounce. In sports, the New York Jets set a new NFL record Sunday after ending the season 3-14. No one will ever catch fewer interceptions than the 2025 Jets, who failed to record a single INT, even in an expanded 17-game season. In Baltimore, the 8-9 Ravens fired head coach Jim Harbaugh. In 18 seasons, Harbaugh finished 180-113 with 11 trips to the playoffs. His team went 13-11 in postseason play, with a Super Bowl win coming in 2012. The Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns, and Falcons all fired their head coaches, and Pete Carroll was let go from the Raiders after a 3-14 season. Yesterday featured 2 NFL wildcard playoff games. The Rams beat the Panthers 34-31, and the Packers gave up 25 fourth-quarter points to lose to the Bears for the first time in the playoffs since 1941. The final of that game was 13-27. And finally, college football. Thursday, January 8th, the Miami Hurricanes squared off against the Ole Miss Rebels in Tempe, Arizona at the Fiesta Bowl. This was the first of 2 semifinal playoff games for the college season. The game featured 6 lead changes, 4 in the fourth quarter alone. Miami controlled the ball for more than 41 minutes, but Ole Miss used explosive plays and field goals from 42, 54, and 58 yards to keep the Canes under pressure. A touchdown with 18 seconds remaining put Miami up 31-27. Ole Miss moved back down the field with time and managed a Hail Mary attempt that fell incomplete as time expired. Friday night, Oregon and Indiana met in Atlanta for the Peach Bowl. Indiana caught a pick 6 on the first play from scrimmage. Oregon tied the game at 7, and then Indiana put on a clinic, scoring 4 unanswered touchdowns and taking a 35-7 lead into the locker room. The final of that game was 56-22. Indiana will see Miami in the 2026 NCAA Football National Championship in Miami Gardens on January 19th. Indiana is a 7.5-point favorite in that game, and like it or not, that's what happened. I'm Rich Stevens, and this has been The Cold Take.